Toys and games company. So Jaques has got tons of heritage. How are you modernising that without losing the trust that the brand has built over the years?
A lot of what we always do is, does it fit with our core principles of providing entertainment and bringing families together? So if it's games or toys, it has to have a real clear purpose. So I think a lot of people get excited about following a trend and developing a product on that, but I think you've got to always make sure it passes a sort of litmus test of, would for us it's easy, would my great-great-great-grandfather be proud of this? And I think you've got to always have a check of every new product that you do.
And you're constantly innovating as well with, like, not even just creating new products, but refreshing the best sellers. And
yeah, everything we're doing now, we're back comfortably into growth. We can really afford to develop new products, and that's kind of my that's one of the most exciting things about running your own business is product development. So yeah, we're always doing new products and always redefining and clarifying our purpose all the time.
And Toby, what are some of the most common operational breaking points that you see when brands are moving from that growth through to scale?
Yeah, I mean, operationally, what I see most, I think number one is fulfillment. Having the ability to scale from 50 orders a day, let's say, to 500. And also having the technology in place to be able to do that and integrate with that as well. So it's about managing, well, from what I find anyway, about managing the fulfillment from where you want to go, not from where you are. I mean, look, second thing, cash flow is, obviously king, and, more fulfillment means more inventory, means sort of more investment. So having the data, the analytics to be able to understand when inventory is being purchased, and also when to hold off. And yeah, I think lastly, staff. It's not always an easy thing to get over, and I think it's a hard thing for people to get into, to start hiring more staff, but it's so crucial to have. A founder can only be or stretch themselves so far, and having sort of good people beside them, and also people who are local to specific areas as well, who understand the market and the region, can make a vital difference, right? And that's where I see most brands sort of stagnate, is when they just can't get past that staff bridge.
Good job for Shopify Finance.
Yes, absolutely.
Made my bacon a few times.
Thanks for the plug.
That's why we're here today. Grace, how does that emotional resonance on site impact the long-term conversion and retention strategy that you've implemented?
It's all about that emotional connection, because people buy from people, women buy from women. And I think in terms of brands, a little bit like you said, it's about having a real purpose, it's about having a mission, and creating that emotional connection. And you can't keep talking to your customers about product as much as MPD, and it's great, the features, the products, keep buying, here's an offer, because they switch off. It's more than transaction, it's about trust. And you build trust through building relationships. So for me, CRO, even from when you hit the homepage, it's about creating that emotional connection and being founder-led. That is our dialogue, if that makes sense. And even through emails, building in editorial content that's not related to product, but very much around our purpose, which is celebrating age, wearing it loudly, wearing it proudly, being bold, being confident. And that's why women resonate with the brand. And you can see it in our retention metrics. So, yeah, it's really important. And I think all brands today need to be more than just a product brand. They need to have purpose and mission.
And Mark, when a brand is growing but the conversion rate is flat, where are you looking first?
I'm a big believer that brands are in control of what consumers do on their website. It's not down to chance. There are absolutely emotional triggers, as Grace said, around the value proposition, trust signals throughout the journey. But ultimately, I think it's about making sure that you are very, very obviously giving clear signposts as to what you want your consumers to do. Do not just have a landing page, a product page, and a checkout. Think about, well, how do I get them from here to there? How do I get them looking at the right piece of information on this page? if I need them to focus more on my subscription option versus my one-time purchase option, how do I position that in a better way? That's what I want them to do, so I have control to do that. So I think that's a big thing. I think a huge thing as well, and this has so many knock-on effects, is just pure site performance. Shopify does a great job of that, clearly. But things like hosting, things like the way that your content's being delivered, your imagery being optimized, anything that is going to slow down that experience. And we're talking tenths of a second before somebody's just going to leave your site. So that's just a super important piece to enable you to convert every single opportunity that you have. And I think just understanding your funnels, understanding how your people are making their journey through your purchase process, and highlighting those opportunities where that conversion rate could be a little bit smoother and a little bit higher.
I think site speed's a real low-hanging fruit.
Absolutely.
I think it always gets pushed to the bottom of the to-do list. Oh no, but we need to work on this project first. And I think that's a real quick win that you can get implemented and see those results.
I think, just to add, an important part of that is when you're adding in functionality onto your website that you think is good and is going to help conversion. So let's say a new app or something like that. There are connotations of installing that app in terms of the JavaScript that introduces into the website and how long that takes to load, how that impacts the load times of the page or the website. So just think about not just the functionality, but the performance impact of it as well.
Also, I've spoken to you about optimizing for mobile, because we're so desktop focused, and 80% of purchases and traffic now is mobile, and it's the psychology. It's a different way that you experience on a desktop. It's more linear. Obviously on a mobile, you're scrolling in a completely different way. So building that into, I think, is really important.
And Martyna, how are you designing different on-site journeys for different customers' intent rather than just forcing everyone through that same path?
So it's a bit tricky for us because our product, our consumer is the teen, but our main customer is the parent. So we are really conscious of any kind of customer journey on site. One has to be cool enough for teens to still want product if they do happen to land on site. At the same time, the education piece is really important, the kind of the trust element. We've got a lot of reviews from parents, but also dermatologists, industry experts, and you kind of have to essentially force different information down different paths, because teens don't care about what a magazine said about us, or they don't care as much. They care about what other people said about us. They care about UGC. Parents want to see those reviews. So we've got a plethora of different journeys, to be completely honest, because we've also been getting a lot of feedback from our customers in reviews, in customer service, saying, it's very difficult for me to find something for my granddaughter, she's 13. As an example, we don't really tend to say our products are actually recommended for anyone 13 and under, even though we do get customers for tweens. We just feel like anyone under 13, all they need is water and clean their face, but they don't really need a cream and SPF, etc. However, if you want to buy them, we now created a page by age group, so over 15, under 15, just making sure that there's a really simple routine for people that do look for that. And that, for example, came out of the feedback that we got from customers. We do have a quiz, for example. The quiz is also optimized, so if it's a teen, the questions are slightly different. If it's a parent, the questions and kind of outcomes are also slightly different. And we also, one of our very important journeys is the routine. So again, I think some of the adults probably in this room, we don't know what our skincare routine should be. Some people say you only need 2 products. Some people say you need a 10-step Korean skincare routine. So again, just really educating on you actually only really need to clean your face, moisturizer, SPF, and you're probably fine. So yeah, it's a lot of work, different journeys, but we're kind of trying to cover all of the bases so everyone can find something they need.
And Joe, what has resilience looked like for you in practice over the past few years?
Yeah, it was really funny. In fact, Mark's opening bit about the COVID boom, and then we also had that massive COVID boom, complete collapse. Bloody-minded determination. I think I remember we got bombed out in the Blitz just up the road here, and I looked at that picture quite frequently, direct hit in the Blitz, and I kind of thought, look, if we can kind of get through that, we can get through most things, but it is so much of running your own business is about your own self-belief. And when there's a lot of people depending on you in a business, we talk lots about building, customers and sales funnels, blah, 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 but actually you're building a whole organization of lots of very important people, and they're trusting you with their livelihoods. You really are accountable to those people, and having that belief and sort of sense of family, which being an old family business, I think really building a team is absolutely everything in that resilience piece.
That's the hardest part, isn't it, about running a business? It's the people.
But also the best part.
Yeah. And what advice have you got for brands who are like navigating conversion rate challenges? Has there been anything that you guys have done where you've seen results?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, obviously work with you guys, but yeah, a lot of your conversion rate happens around seasonality. Don't panic. Follow the journey, really understand the full customer journey from where that traffic's come from. Different traffic sources create at different rates. It may well be, dig into the data, really follow everything, and don't overreact too quickly. Seasonality has a huge impact in conversion rate, particularly for a toy brand.
Yeah, definitely. And Toby, how do you think that brands should think about platform decisions if they are looking at scaling across different markets?
Loads to think about, right? I think number one, can it? Not every platform can move into new markets effectively. I think secondly, what does that actually look like on that platform? So speed and time to market. A lot of platforms and technologies will get you to that end goal, but what does it take to get to that end goal? Is it months and huge amounts of development costs in order to do it? I also then think, once you are there, how can you optimize within the market, and have they got the capability to do that? So anything from localizing campaigns, currencies, languages, and also operationally, if you want payments in different currencies, if you want to set up local entities and get paid out into those different entities to optimize your FX fees. So a huge amount to think about. I think they're probably, top three. And
this is quite a big question. What's your take on the future of e-commerce?
Well, I think everyone in this room probably knows what I'm going to say here, but agentic commerce obviously is at the forefront. It's incredibly exciting, incredibly weird at the same time, right? We're seeing, I think I saw a stat the other day, don't quote me on it, traffic within LLMs and chatbots is up about 1,200%. So what we're seeing is people moving to chatbots in order to source products. And we're seeing the chatbots actually source within the websites, whether that's scouring reviews, optimizing keywords. We're sort of moving away from optimizing for people, and we're actually starting now really to gear towards optimizing for AI, right? Which is crazy. So I think on that sense, optimizing for that is going to be huge. And then, without going on too much, secondly, AI within your actual platform and technology. So, plug. We have Sidekick, and the capabilities that has is enormous, right? It can almost be a business partner. It can code for you. It can write apps. It can provide strategic reviews. It can provide advice on where to improve conversion rates. And then it can also source in data, right? So I think as a sales channel, obviously leveraging AI massively, but also from an operational standpoint, how are you using AI to optimize your workflows and your operations?
So important. And Grace, where do you think the handover between paid and on-site experience usually breaks down, and what do you do to fix it?
It's really interesting. So when I look at paid, which is the bane of my life, that for me is about creating interest and intent to drive traffic to your website. So for me, I bring it down to somebody's turned up at my store. It's not my website, it's my store. And as you said, they are there with interest and intent to purchase. So it needs to be frictionless. It needs to be personalized. So that first experience when they hit the website is really important to identify why they're there, what they need, how we can help them. So I always bring it back to a department store. When I go into a department store and I walk up to a counter and I can't find someone and there's no one there to help me answer a question, and so I'm like, well, it's the same on a website. And of course, my customers, 40 plus, they're not confident around makeup. They don't really know where to start. We've got a quiz, but then that's one step. And I want the process to purchase to be really quick. So that first experience is really important. So one of the things that we did, and it's a tech stack, it's an app, and I cannot remember the name of them. I apologize, menopause brain. But when you hit our website, there's a pop-up, and this is where it falls into the email marketing, or is it CRO? For me, it's actually CRO. So you get a pop-up, give me your email address, you get your discount, and go to your email to get that discount code. For me, does not make sense at all. Why would I go into a department store and then a consultant come up to me and go, by the way, go across the road and get your gift voucher discount code and then come back? Why would I send them away from my store on to their email? So we've got a pop-up, get their details, get their birthday, because everybody likes a surprise. Then the next part of that journey is a real-time quiz. And it's very personal and it's personalized. So Grace, what can we help you with today? Is it dark circles? Is it wrinkles? Blah, blah, blah. 4 questions. They click on it, they get their code, so they're ready to buy there and then. Frictionless. The first thing they see when they go to shop is a little pop-up, and I will remember the text, the app, that says, Grace, if you're worried about dark circles, this product does X, Y, Z. Click, buy. They don't even have to go to the product page. So for me, if you want conversion on your paid social, you have to really get that CRO working very, very quickly. And the other thing about the paid social piece, I think the hardest challenge is the creative, getting the creative right. Obviously reading the metrics and the data. But one of my best performing ads was an amplified Instagram post, had nothing to do with makeup, had me, a piece to camera saying, dressing appropriately, fuck that, blah, 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 blah. We boosted it and we had the best metrics ever. Lowest customer acquisition cost, blah, 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 blah. So creative.
Thanks. And Mark, what do you think a high-performing e-com site actually needs right now to convert at scale?
Stability. I think the ability to handle peak, and we know that that's different for everybody, whether that's Black Friday, whether it's, I used to work in the flower industry, Valentine's Day, Mother's Day was just 90% of our business, so I think being robust enough to handle the worst case scenario, I think, and not just saying, well, our average monthly traffic is X. Think what's the biggest thing that could happen to us, and setting up for that. I think that's a really important thing. I think in terms of being able to convert at scale, I talked about site performance before, but not just in terms of page speed, but in terms of the back end and the integrations that you have in place. So the more orders you generate, the more shipping requests that you generate, the more ERP API shots that you generate, the more that's going to happen. The least manual things within all of those, the better. Because the more orders you generate, the harder that's going to become to handle without doing it from an automated perspective and having the right integrations in place. I think understanding customer expectations is really important as well. So what do my customers expect, not just from a product and journey perspective, but payment options, with delivery information, with returns information. If I'm not giving them that information, how am I going to expect my entire potential attainable market to buy from me? And I think providing that clarity to the customer in a really obvious way. Let's dumb it down. Like, I know I don't want to say treat your customers like they're children, but kind of do that a little bit. Be obvious about everything, because if you don't give them that information, there will be one, whether it's 1 in 5, whether it's 1 in 20, whether it's 1 in 100, there will be people who can't find what they want and they're going to go. And you times that at scale, going back to the question, at scale, 50 times bigger than what you're doing right now, that's a lot of money on the table.
And Martyna, last one for you. What's one small change that you've made on site that's had a material impact on revenue?
It's probably a boring one, but bundles. I was actually shocked by how much revenue, extra revenue we drove, how much of an improvement of IOV was just launching a couple of different examples of routines and kind of, products that go together. I think, kind of to your point as well, like Mark, I think we don't want to treat our customers as they're stupid, but also there's an element of in skincare, a lot of people just don't know, and you need to help them on that journey, and essentially just saying to them, like, this is a 3-step routine, this is a 3-step routine for spots, this is your full routine with 4 steps. And honestly, they became like 40% of our sales within like a couple of months. So it was really, really successful. And again, thanks to Shopify and simple app kind of implementation, it was like really frictionless in terms of process as well.
Bro, thanks guys. That's all we've got time for, unfortunately.